We got a cross versus battle for y'all today. All right. So this video is a cross versus battle. We have Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tail versus Yusuke Urameshi. Now Natsu is gonna be, or yeah, the first scene. You know how we do scenarios. There's only gonna be two, right? In the fairy tale world, and then in the Yu Yu Hakusho verse, right? So we got scenario one going down in like Magnolia. All right, we'll just keep it there. All right. So and Natsu's fighting against Yusuke Urameshi. So who has the strength? Strength goes to Natsu. Physically, physical strength because this man's a dragon slayer. He's fought some opponents where he had to like throw some shit around. Striking force is pretty powerful. Yusuke, he's in his own verse, he's like pretty damn strong. But I like to say that Fairy Tail is a little bit more powerful than Yu Yu Hakusho. Um, in its entirety when you look at them both. Um, but speed, speed goes to Yusuke. You might be making a case for Natsu. He's quick at times, but like I like to give this to Yusuke because Yusuke's quick when he has to be, like, which is all the time. Anytime he's in a fight, and I'm talking about these are their full power forms, y'all. So basically, Yusuke towards the end of the series, Yu Yu Hakusho, and then Natsu where he's at now, and it's like kind of neck and neck. But I got Yusuke doing that shit. He's doing what's called quick steps. He's almost performing flash steps, almost. All right. They don't have a move in that series, so you know I call him a quick stepper. I saw him doing that shit in the Demon World tournament. I'm like, yeah, I'll have to give that to Yusuke. Durability, I'm giving that shit to Natsu though. Natsu can tank some attacks. He's kind of a tank, and it's because of his dragon slaying. Um, past. He trained with Igno, and then he fought all of the opponents he fought, and in all those fights, he was basically tanking some of those attacks that should have done real or more damage than they should. Yusuke, on the other hand, he can get scrapes, bumps, bruises, but that leads into the endurance. Yusuke, I'm gonna give Yusuke the endurance though, because Yusuke, even if he is like beaten down, bleeding, you know, bones fractured, he's gonna like keep on fighting. You know, fucking Sensui broke his arm, right? And he still tried to fight. He's like, I still have to fight. You know, I'm the only guy who can, take this guy on. Yusuke would definitely give Natsu a fucking run. Like, even if Natsu, hasn't beat in more categories, right? So intelligence, Yusuke got him beating intelligence. So when it comes to fighting, you know, Yusuke is one to like not let shit, you know, slow him down, right, in a fight. I just think he's a smarter guy, like overall, even if it's like not a fighting type of thing, in social situations, he's like, we gotta do this, let's do it. He executes. He goes out, he executes his plans, right? Not to, you know, you can get that with Natsu sometimes, but also, you can get him being a pretty stupid ass guy. But I got Natsu with experience though, so we see Natsu fight against way more opponents than Yusuke. If we watch Fairy Tail, right? Natsu's fought against Hades, Zero. Um, you know, he fought against Jackal. He fought against um, Zonkro. He fought against a lot. Yusuke's big enemies were only Tagoro, Sensui, and Ryzen. And some people like uh, Suzaku, of the Four Saint Beats, but I also have close skills going to Yusuke. We know that Mr. Yusuke Urameshi is that guy who has hands, you know. He is Mr. Fisticuffs. He is the one who's Mr. Boxer. You know, Natsu is, he got hands too. He kicks and he's a brawler. Much like Luffy. In that he's a brawler, he uses hands, legs, anything. Yusuke just gives him the hands every time. And like he's like damn good at it. Um, range skills go to Natsu though. Range skills go to Natsu. I believe he has more like range skills in his tool set. He has the dragon slaying arts, right? Dragon slayer moves, fire dragon slaying, magic, fire dragon slaying secret arts, and most of them are range attacks. Not all of them, but a lot of them, are ranged abilities. Um, Now Yusuke has spirit gun. He has the spirit wave, but he also has and that's it. Just because Natsu has a little bit more in his toolkit, I give it to Natsu. And then Riku goes to Urameshi. See, he died in the first episode, resurrected. You know, died against Sensui. He's fighting against Natsu and he's in his human form. He's like close to death, and then boom, Ryzen comes out, and he's like, it's like another fight. The fight continues. Not or Natsu's in for a longer fight. He's like, oh shit, this boy, he got up. He's fucking, if not more powerful than when this fight started. You know, so I give the recoup to Yusuke on that. Hacks go to Natsu. He has the fire dragon mode of the Atlas Flame, Igneous Flame, um, lightning, fire dragon slaying mode, dragon force, all of that shit that Urameshi only has Mazaku form and you know spirit energy form, and then like a combination of like both, because he did use that against Yomi, for a little bit. That's and that's why I give the hacks to Natsu. And the environment, since it's in the fairy tale verse, it goes to Natsu. And Natsu also, let's say that they're fighting, right? And like there's explosions during this fight. Boom, shit's being destroyed. What happens in an explosion? There's fire. So guess what? Natsu can fuel up on that, taking advantage of the environment they're fighting in. So, Natsu wins, 6 out of the 10 or 11 attributes, right? Um, 6 to 5, Natsu wins this fight. High diff, high difficulty, believe it or not. Now, in the second scenario, we're in the Yu Hakusho world. This man, Natsu's dropped in there, and he's just like, it's like he's another demon, right? But this guy is just like, he's not a demon that Yusuke wants to like really, fuck around with. But he has no choice because he's like the one there that's, because we're fighting in like, we're fighting in human world now, yeah. So like Yusuke now has like no choice but to fight this guy. Um, Strength goes to Natsu. Natsu's picking up cars, throwing them at Yusuke. If he has to. You know, destroying buildings with his punches. Shit like that. Um, Speed, Yusuke. Yusuke is, doing his best to like dodge debris and other things. Running up on Natsu, knowing that he has to fucking get some hits off. He can't run away during this fight, right? He has to like, even if this guy is powerful, he's gonna run up and hit him and like fucking give him some like, let him know what the fuck's going on. He ain't gonna let his world burn. Just because it's Natsu. Durability goes to Natsu. Yusuke's gonna have to, hit him with that like fucking, barrage of attacks, like, keep punching. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Whatever, hitting the fucking everything, with the spirit energy and even demon Mazaku energy, because he will be having to fucking go to that form against Natsu. Um, Endurance goes to Yusuke again, because Yusuke will be fighting for his whole world. And, in this fight, he'll probably, start on his human form, but then his, demon markings will come on him because, and then the fight will, get dragged on longer. Natsu would probably think he has an easy win at first, and then, shit like that happens, and then it's a whole other ball game. Um, Intelligence goes to Yusuke, you know. He want to finish the fight as quick as possible. Natsu, I don't know. He's a guy that likes to finish fights quick, but he's also, you know, not as smart. I don't see Yusuke as like a smart intellectual type of protagonist either. But out of the two, he's more, you know, Mercury minded, if you know what I mean. He uses his like brain a little bit more than Natsu does. Close skills or experience goes to Natsu. Even though he ain't from that world, he still has like all those like memories of all those people he fought in his world. And like he fought way more people than Yusuke did, you know. Like people who were like, bad guys who were trying to like, destroy the world or, destroy their friends, shit like that. So I got Natsu winning that. Now close skills go to Yusuke. Still, Mr. Fisticuffs, Mr. Boxer. Um, we got him, you know, for that one. Natsu also goes for the range skills. He has more range skills than Yusuke does. And it's crazy too, right? Because if Yusuke is not using his fisticuffs, he's using the spirit gun. He's using the spirit gun shot or spirit shotgun. Um, you know, but Natsu has way more. And if you watch both, I'm right. Recoup goes to Yusuke. Yusuke, we already said that in the other scenario, right? Scenario one. In this scenario, it's the same thing. You know, he gets, beaten down close to death, and then he's like, boom, boom, and that demon energy comes out. And it's like a whole nother, the second wind is what they call it, right? Hacks go to Natsu. He has Fire Dragon Slaying Magic, Fire Dragon Slaying Secret Arts, Dragon Force, Lightning Flame Dragon Mode, um, you know, pure Lightning Dragon Mode. I forgot to even say that, but now he does. But that's kind of manga. But I love Fairy Tail too. Um, so Natsu has hacks, and then environment goes to Natsu, and this is why it goes to Natsu, not Yusuke. I was thinking about giving it to Yusuke, but then I was like, guess what? It's still the same type of situation. And in the Yu Yu Hakusho world, it's like the real world. You have cars, going around, right? Boom! A car explodes. What's there? Fire. Natsu's taking that in for a power up, and he's continuing to battle Yusuke. Uh, so with that being said, but Yusuke is gonna fight very hard to try to stay in this fight. I'm gonna say Natsu high to extreme diff. Um, he wins that. But be cool around the corner and let me know what you think about that in the comment section. And watch Yu Yu Hakusho so you know what I'm talking about. And you might not understand why I'm saying like these two should fight each other. You know, Yu Yu Hakusho, these people are like planetary. You could even make cases for them to be in, little bit higher than that, because in the Chapter Black arc, Sensui was, even this was just his aura. He wasn't even doing anything. His aura from the sacred energy was emitting from his body, and then the fucking world was shaking. Earthquakes were happening just off of that alone. And then Yusuke ended up awakening in the Mazaku form. He's now equal to Sensui. So that means Yusuke was also, that type of, powerful. But then they go into the demon world, the yokai world, which is like it's more vast and like basically they could fight there forever and basically not. I I wouldn't say it's like, you know, an infinite world there, but it's way bigger, and you know, because the world's finite. You know, you only have like the Earth, and then it's like, you know, it's destroyed. But then, you know, you go into demon world, and then it's like, you know, so they had that there, and then he continued to grow as well. So this fight would be kind of close, but Natsu definitely wins both. Um, and let me know what you think in the comments. Watch both Fairy Tail and Yu Yu Hakusho. Um, they're both great animes to me. Be cool, on the corner, and Merry Christmas to y'all.